All right, so we've got tonight coming up something really big. We've got the Marvel's The Avengers.
What?
And yeah, we've got a Marvel's The Avengers panel.
No.
It's not.
An Avengers here?
They're going to be here.
A panel?
Yeah. Well, not in this room. It's not big
No,
enough.
but
It's
here.
not big enough. Yeah, no,
When?
here at the thing. At 6:30 in the IGN Theater.
6:30?
After Cup of Joe, because they didn't want to face the competition.
No, I would have obliterated the Avengers.
Exactly.
There would have been no one there. There would have been like, no, we'll go to Avengers when Cup of Joe is done.
Exactly.
Because
we don't want to overlap.
You just don't. When is Cup of Joe, by the way?
Cup of Joe, I believe, is at 5 to 6.
5 to 6.
Yeah.
Somebody write that down.
I don't know where it is, so I can't help you with that. But
yeah, I'll find out.
Yeah,
but it's
right.
here at the floor.
It's not here.
Not even
sorry,
on the floor.
I keep getting confused.
It's in the theater.
It's here at the Jacob Javits Center.
The IGN Theater, I believe.
You're not in the IGN.
I'm not. Oh man.
They're going to be getting it ready for Avengers.
Oh, Avengers. They have the bigger theater?
I mean, bigger is a subjective.
Oh, you know what it is? Because when we're done with Cup of Joe, I'm going to tell all the thousands of people
Sure.
that I'm going to say, go to Avengers.
Exactly.
You're
so they
going
want to get it
this.
ready. They want to get it ready.
I get it.
It makes
I understand.
sense.
I understand.
It makes
I understand.
What's your involvement in the Avengers movies been like? Yeah, we could just go like this all day.
Yeah, I know, really.
People are loving it.
We're just wasting everyone's
people
time.
People are loving it.
Totally.
Like, I'm so glad I tuned
I'm sorry
in.
for wasting your time.
Yeah. What's your involvement been in the Avengers via the creative committee, via other stuff? How closely have you worked on the movie?
I've been involved, since the script phase, and the subsequent drafts of the script phase. Kevin and his team, get me involved in looking over some of the design work, and it's more tonal than anything,
Sure.
But once that movie gets started, and they're starting to make that movie, that is Kevin and his producers over there, and Josh, of course, and the actors that do their thing. And then when I go on set, I just sort of sit there, and go, "Hi, that looks great. That's so cool. That's great. Look at that thing. They built one of those. Oh my God, is that what that looks like in real life?"
Yeah.
It's
very nicely vague, by the way.
Yes, it was. So every once in a while I tweet something.
Yeah.
And somebody would, yelling from Marvel, "I can't believe you just tweeted that." Yeah. Oh, come on. Seriously. Like people don't know there's going to be a Quinjet in the movie.
Yeah.
Really.
There's going to be a Quinjet in the movie? I was trying to stay unspoiled until...
I tweeted that months ago.
And I follow every tweet you make. I wouldn't want to imply that I wasn't.
Good thing I say nice things about you.
Yeah,
Actually, I don't say anything about you.
I know. I'm well aware. You didn't know who I was until you introduced me a second ago. But
I'll forget
we've
you.
developed a very chummy relationship.
The minute I'm at the store, I'll forget you.
I totally understand, boss. You're also working in the animation field. You're doing a lot with the Ultimate Spider-Man cartoon.
That's one of them.
That at the Marvel TV.
Yeah, Jeff Lowe will be there, with his smiling face, talking about Ultimate Spider-Man. It is the first Spider-Man animated show that Marvel itself is producing. It's got Marvel DNA all over it, which really sounds nastier than it actually is.
Oh.
But hey, get your mind out of the gutter.
Yeah, that's not your
Anyway,
fault.
it's got the Marvel DNA. Jeff Loeb, myself. Spider-Man editor Steve Wacker is involved in our story meetings. You've got Brian Michael Bendis, a relatively unknown writer who's working on the show. He's not a bad kid. Yeah, he's all right. I like him. We have Men of Action, which consists of Joe Kelly, Joe Casey, Duncan Rouleau, and Steve Siegel, right? And they're the guys that basically created Ben 10, right? One of the greatest properties out there. They're involved in the show, and the wonderful and magnificent Paul Dini, the legendary Paul Dini. No, Frank's not involved in the show.
Oh, no? No, he said he wrote an episode yesterday.
But not in the writer's group.
Oh, okay.
He has written, I think you were leaking that Frank wrote an episode.
Oh, he already said it yesterday.
Yeah, Frank wrote an episode. As did Brian.
When you said magnificent and delightful, that's just where I thought you were going.
I never described Frank. I never used magnificent and delightful to describe Frank.
He gave me $50 earlier.
Okay.
Right.
But that's the writers group, right?
Yeah.
Those are the guys that are in the room, and season 1 is done and rolling and being animated. We met about 3 weeks ago and already started season 2. We're probably 6 episodes into season 2. It's a really just great show. I keep talking about it a lot, and I feel like I hope I don't I set the bar too high, but it's a lot of fun. It really is.
From what we see, it's gonna hit.
I hope so. It's Spider-Man.
Yeah. We have another question from Twitter. Paul Hasinkos would like to thank Joe for many years of good stories.
Thank you, Paul. Appreciate it.
And then ask if My Girl Songbird will be more relevant to the Marvel Universe. Songbird from Thunderbolts.
You know what? I honestly, I'm sorry to say, well, I don't know the answer because one of the unfortunate circumstances of becoming chief creative officer is that I can no longer be involved in the minutia of publishing. So I'm more involved in bigger storylines, bigger events. So every once in a while, when it comes to some characters, and no offense to Songbird, she's not an A-list character. She's not Iron Man, Captain America. She's more of one of our B characters. I can't tell you exactly what's happening with that character at any given moment, unless I've happened to something cross my path and somebody sends me an email saying, "Hey, this is what's happening." So yeah, it's actually a better question for the editor, of Thunderbolts or Axel.
Well, I can actually tell you, we just announced on the Shattered Heroes panel that Thunderbolts by Jeff Parker is going to have an arc coming up, which is Thunderbolts versus Thunderbolts. It's the original team versus the current team. So not only, sir, will you have Songbird, we may have two Songbirds. I think the plural of Songbirds is still Songbirds.
Yes, Songbirds is.
Songbirds is. Yes. You've also got, as we said, coming up at 5 o'clock, you've got your Cup of Joe panel, which is, even since I was coming before I worked in the comics industry, a staple of conventions. Always the best panel of the show.
Good, I'm glad.
I've only been here for a couple of years, so it's, it's not dating anything. But what do you have in store for us today at Cup of Joe?
Just the usual mayhem. We're, we're going to dance around, sing some songs. We're going to, all hold hands together in a big, gigantic mass Comic-Con circle. We're just going to talk comic books, and it's what I love about Cup of Joe is that it's basically a free for all.
Sure.
People can just ask anything. We'll of course do a little show and tell, because while we have several thousand people held captive, because once they come in, they lock the doors.
Yeah.
You cannot escape. We take that opportunity to show you some Marvel stuff. What's coming up, what's happening, a couple of teasers, a couple of reveals. Usually if you stick around to the end of the panel, we always have one extra slide that, to make it worth your while. And then the rest of the time, really, I would say that 75%, if not 80% of Cup of Joe is all question and answers. We have a great dais of people. I know that Axel will be there. Our publisher, Dan Buckley, will be there. It's really the only panel art Dan ever does.
Right.
Jason Aaron will be there. Jeff Loeb will be there. I know I'm going to miss some people. C.B. Sobolski, the infamous Arun Singh will be there.
Oh, yeah.
You can't have a panel without Arun.
He's basically
Matt Fraction, the wonderful and sexy Matt Fraction.
Oh, yeah.
So,
he still has the beard.
He does have the beard, yeah.
So you're not too old.
But his beard is kind of ironic.
Yeah, much like most of what.
Yeah. So there'll be a lot of people there, and if you're around the show or you're getting here a little bit later, come on down to Cup of Joe. But get there early because it does. We generally have to shut the doors because it gets to be too crowded. Hopefully, if we do our job right,
You've had so many Cup of Joe panels over the years, and I know one of the things you always talk about was the reason you started doing Cup of Joe is because you wish they had something like that. And so many memories, so many things that have happened. Are there any specific stories from Cup of Joe panels that really stand out to you? Crazy stuff that's happened?
There's always some great stories. I mean, I think my favorite times are when you have like a really wonderfully intelligent, precocious little kid who comes up to ask a question, because those kids, you just want to bring them on stage.
Yep.
And that's happened on several occasions. Those are always wonderful, wonderful moments. I think two of my favorite Cup of Joes happened this year. This San Diego, we had a wonderful Cup of Joe. Where we did some amazingly special things, and Clark Gregg came out in character as Agent Coulson and literally tore the place apart, right? And much to my surprise, Clark got up there and he had shtick. I mean, he was funny.
He was good to go. Yeah.
He worked blue too, So if you had kids out there, you had to do the old rabbit ear things. But he was really, really funny. That was a great panel. I remember a few years ago here at New York Comic Con, Stan Lee sort of photobombed my panel. We had it all planned. He came in, tore the place apart. And then also this year, I did a huge Cup of Joe, like an hour and a half, 2 hour, just sort of Q&A thing at Disney's D23, which was ridiculous. I couldn't believe how many people did. I mean, it was. It was one of my scariest moments. Not when I was on stage, but just looking out into the theater beforehand, because it was half a hockey arena. They basically took a hockey arena and cut it in half like a rock concert, and there were several levels, and we managed to fill it up pretty good. So that was a lot of fun. That was the absolute biggest audience I've ever done a Cup of Joe for. So.
Now, you're still, the amazing thing is, with all the stuff you got on your plate, we talked about all of it, you're still managing to draw and put out covers.
Yes.
You just recently did Avengers Extinction #1 variant, which was very cool. Campbell fighting Captain America. How does that fit into your role as Chief Creative Officer? Not in the sense of officially, but how do you fit time in there?
It's very tight. It's very tight. When I talked about that, that folder I have with everything lined up, whenever there's a break there, whenever I get to a point where there's something there that isn't required reading or listening for 24 hours, I'll look at that as a window of like, okay, you know what? I could brush my teeth, shower, and maybe do a couple of covers or something here. And I just tweeted on Thursday night. I just tweeted an Avenging Spider-Man cover that I did the making of, which no one's seen.
Right.
Actually, even you guys at Marvel hadn't seen until I posted it on Twitter. So I love doing those things. I love doing those sort of tweeting of a making of a cover or a page.
Say, that's one of the coolest things. If you're not following, you should be following at Joe Quesada, where you occasionally just show the whole process of from I don't even call it pencils these days.
No, it's from chicken scratch. So just initial, here's stream of consciousness drawing. This is what I'm thinking about. Here's 4 or 5 different ideas that I came up with and why I select one, and then how I break it down from rudimentary drawing to working it through to final piece to final pencils, final inks, and eventually final colors. So it's something that I've I remember breaking in as an artist, or even just struggling as an artist to make it into the industry and looking at other people's work and realizing, darn, I'm not that good, and these people are just so amazingly brilliant. They just put pencil and paper down and they're able to draw these wonderful things, and not realizing how much work actually goes on behind that, and how many thousands upon thousands upon thousands of hours that particular artist put into the making of their craft. And so to me, I think if I had the process demystified in some sense, if I was able to sit back and watch the process, I would have understood how much work went into it and how it doesn't just instantly happen, and I probably would have been more forgiving in my own artwork and maybe progressed a little bit further, a little bit faster. So I'm trying to demystify it as much as possible, because I know for a lot of artists, they try to draw, especially young artists, they try to draw something and it's frustrating, and you're wondering, why can't I get that to look just like my favorite artist? Why can't I get that line to curve the way? And again, it doesn't come instantly to us, to most of us. Yes, every once in a while you have a savant who can just put pencil to paper and do something that's photorealistic, right?
Who everybody hates.
But again,
everyone
so rare to find someone like that. For 99% of the rest of us, it is hard, labor-intensive work. I can't get that hand. Oh, gotta redraw. Okay, that's not working. Let me get some photo ref. Use the photo ref. Manipulate the photo ref. Okay, now, so there's a lot of behind-the-scenes magic to the inevitable trick that you show, which is the final piece. So my goal is to try to demystify that, and maybe allow people to be a little more enthusiastic, a little more forgiving about their own artwork, and allow them to get to the process of eventually becoming professional.
It's a great experience for both fans and creators, because if you're a fan and want to see how something's done, it's cool.
I've actually had some creators email me and say, I can't believe you're showing me this stuff. You're giving away the tricks. And I'm like, what's the big deal? What's the big deal?
It's old school mentality.
I am the Penn and Teller of comic book artists.
Joe, we want to thank you so much for stopping by and chatting with us.
Thanks, John. Oh, Ben. Sorry.
No, it's no problem. As long as
I told you, I forget you to do that.
As long as my key still works on Monday, you can call me whatever you want.
Marvel, your universe.